Well, Sian, stay with us and we'll bring in Agnes Morfor, who's a student at Cardiff Sixth Form College. Hi, Agnes.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really well, thanks. I'm more concerned about how you are, though, and how do you feel about this? Is this a good thing for you? Does it remove any doubt of having to have this sorted next year? How do you feel about being teacher assessed?
Honestly, I feel a range of emotions. On the one hand, our learning has been disrupted due to the lockdown. Some schools or some students have isolated more than others. Online learning hasn't been as effective as it has for others. And so I'm thankful on that hand that Kirsty Williams has recognised that and recognised that it would be inappropriate for us to continue exams as normal due to all of that. But then on the other hand, I am quite disheartened because it's as if we've been preparing for these exams for so many years with a particular mindset and vision that we will sit these exams. And so on that hand, I am also quite upset with the decision. But I think a lot of students are quite conflicted with her decision, especially with the fact that, it's almost as if the stress that we would have felt in the summer because of those exams is now going to be felt throughout the whole year because we will be assessed on, tests, homework, classwork, mocks, that kind of thing. But I also do think as a college, we've been very fortunate in our learning during the pandemic. And at the end of the day, like Kirsty Williams said, it's about creating that level playing field for all the students across the country. So I do see where her decision came from. And it's about making sure that all of our students get through the academic year the best way we can.
Yeah. What do you need from your final academic year then? What's your next steps, or what do you need to achieve that?
I'm hoping to get AAA and go to UCL to study neuroscience. And what I need to do now is that I need to make sure that all of my homeworks and all of my classwork are, as great as they can be, because that's what's going to be going to. I don't kind of have that relaxation of knowing it's okay, I can do better in the exam. I now know that everything I have to do has to be perfect. And that does add on that extra level of kind of pressure and stress. But I do kind of trust in myself and I trust in my school and my teachers that, we can get through this.
I trust in you as well, Agnes.
Thank you.
I know we don't know each other, but you sound very impressive to me. Tell me this, when back in the day, and I do mean back in the day, Agnes, some of my exams that were coursework assessed, I had the opportunity to redo if the grade wasn't what I needed them to be. Will you have the opportunity to redo some of your pieces of work if they don't hit that A standard that you need or not?
I think that's kind of the question that a lot of people are asking because so many things are now different. And so I do think the teachers have more evidence of the fact that, of how to base our center assessed grades. And so it's kind of like, for example, the situation I'm in now is even if we're not predicted the grades we want, we need to now have submitted evidence that we can get these predicted grades. We have to show that we know, if our teacher says, I'm going to predict you an A-star, you have to put in the effort to show that you can get an A-star. And so it's kind of like that. I feel as though it's kind of a good decision in the sense that we now have more opportunity to give evidence that we can get the grades, like you would with coursework.
Yeah. And do you experience that as additional pressure, or is that something you'd have done anyway? Because you sound incredibly diligent to me, or is it compounding the pressure on top of the natural diligence that you would have done?
I mean, for me personally, thank you for calling me diligent. But for me personally, I do think it does add that extra level of pressure because it's as if we're being constantly monitored. And I know that's not the intent that they had when they put this new regulation in place. But I do feel kind of, stressed out. Honestly, I do feel stressed out at times because I know that everything I do counts. And that's for me. I know that at the end of the day, I can work hard. But, not every student is like that. And that's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. It's just the fact that, not every student is the same. And I think that's something they have to keep in mind.
Kirsty Williams said she wanted...
We can do that. Sorry.
No, I apologise. Slight delay on the line. Kirsty Williams said she wanted fairness. Do you think this is fair?
I think that it's as fair as it can be in the sense that, like I said, and like she said, not everyone has had the same lockdown experience. It hasn't been a uniform experience. And so we've had to kind of find that common ground in which everyone can have the same opportunity to succeed. And I do think that by having these teacher assessed grades, that it is fair that we are kind of scored with teachers that know us, maybe even for students that wouldn't have done well in the exam due to all of the pressure of lockdown. Like everyone was at lockdown. Lockdown has had effects on people's mental health and stuff, and that could have had an effect on your exams, and that has affected people differently. And I think it's just the fact that no one has had the same experience. And as in my school, I do think I'm lucky. I think we've kind of had the best opportunities we can. Our online learning has been seamless since March due to summer holidays starting again in September, and we've had so many measures in place to ensure that we have the best education we can. And not every school is the same. Not every student has the same opportunities or has the same opportunities to have that effective learning. And so I do think this is as fair as it can be. And it's been made clear by our school anyways, what they've told us already, like what has to be done. And they're going to give us more information soon, they've said. And so I do think it's as fair as it can be, because as she said, it's about creating that level playing field.
How do you feel about actually going to university in September of 2021? Do you think you'll actually be doing that? The students that started this year have had an awful time, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly. And I do have friends who've said that it's not the uni experience that they've always wanted. And I was speaking to like college peers today, and we're all worried because we didn't have exams last year, obviously, and we're now going to go to university next year without having sat a formal exam in 2 years. And that's going to have an effect, I think, on our learning in university. And some people, university, their options might have changed now due to this. And so I think it's definitely, for me personally, I do think that, and at my school anyways, I do think that a lot of students will still have the opportunity to go to university and get the grades they need to get into university. But I don't think that will be the opportunity for every student.
Sian Griffiths, anything to add?
Well, I mean, good luck to Agnes, I think I'd like to say. A very
Thank
impressive
you.
young woman. I think it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, one of the things is even this system, we know where teachers are going to be assessing pupils' grades in Wales, it's not completely fair because you have unconscious bias. Teachers favour some pupils and don't always recognise the potential of others. So I think whichever system is used, whether it's exams or teacher assessed grades, there does have to be an appeal system in place so that if pupils don't get the grades they think they deserve, they can appeal that. And that applies to teacher assessed grades as well. I mean, certainly in my own case, I was good at exams, but I wasn't a very diligent student. So one system would have favoured me and the other one wouldn't. And I think there has to be some sort of appeal mechanism to even that out. But I think probably what Kirsty Williams in Wales has done is a sensible thing to do, because when I interviewed her a couple of weeks ago, she said to me, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't predict what's going to happen next summer. I don't even know if will be able to hold the exams. Will there be a third spike of the virus? We don't know. And I think the last thing that anybody wants is to get to next summer and right at the last minute, people have to pull the plugs on exams because we can't have thousands of children, in exam halls sitting next to each other, because that led to a complete disaster this year and nobody wants to see that repeated.
Sian, always a pleasure. Thanks, as always. Sian Griffiths, Sunday Times Education and Families Editor. Agnes, before we say goodbye to you, has anyone, just on what Sian's point there, has anyone talked to you about a potential appeals process yet? I suppose it's too early, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've only just heard about it. I think it was just this afternoon at the end of chemistry. One of us just said, oh my gosh, guys, exams are cancelled. So we're still digesting the information and waiting to hear more information from our school. But I think on the point that Sian Griffith said, it was the fact that for me personally, and for other students, I know that it is the fact that we know we could have done better in the exam. We know that we do well under that exam condition. And now this is going to make it more difficult because we are assessed on classwork and homework, which is maybe an environment we don't work as well in. So I think we all just have to try the best that we can under the circumstances that we've been given.
That's all you can do, Agnes. And the only thing I would say to you, because as Sian said, you've spoken so well tonight, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Your world won't end if one of those grades lets you down, and just try and remember life goes on beyond this set of assessments,
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for taking time to speak to me, and I wish you well with your studies. Maybe we'll speak again before next summer. I'd like that very much.
Me too. Thank you very much for having me.
Agnes Moore, student at Cardiff Sixth Form College.